basically, Vee was at my desk, and Kyler was trying to think of podcast ideas. And I looked at her, she looked at me, and I'm just kind of like, what about internal versus external recruiting?
Yeah.
I have a little chat about that. And plus, I've never actually really had a informal type of conversation with an external recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be kind of fun to pick their brains because...
how long have you been
It was
recruiting?
8 months.
8 months.
8 months in IT, yeah.
What you did before?
I was working more in the upside. I was working in Australia, in the medical, like we were recruiting doctors.
Oh.
So, and I was more on the upside than the recruiter's shoes. So
you did recruiting for a couple of years?
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
but recruitment, like pure et dur, it was in IT here in Montreal, in this gorgeous IT hub where the competition is fierce.
Yes.
And it's really hardcore.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
So opposite to that, like I've always done internal recruiting, whether it was for video game testing or fashion. I've been more on the tech side, so definitely we have a lot. I know about the competition, but at the end of the day, I go home with the same paycheck every week. Whereas the external recruiters, sometimes they might have like big paydays and other...
You're going to get me started.
Other days, not so much.
Well, look, I think I've used the first recruiter back in 2006 or 2007. So I've been doing recruiting myself. So it's kind of a good mix that you've been internal, she's been external. I've been quite a both. That's going to be interesting. But there's one of the big thing that I kind of get emotional about, or not emotional, but I get started about is the fact that recruiters have too much of a big check. You know, in the end, when they do place someone, which make the judgment being not really objective most of the time. And I find that 99% of the time, when a recruiter reach out to someone, a candidate, to offer an opportunity, maybe 95% of the time, the only thing that really matters is, can I place that person and how much am I going to be making? And it's not about the interest of the candidate. So that's the thing that drives me crazy about this business, especially in IT.
Well, this is what I want to ask Vee about, because I know there are some genuine recruiters out there, and most of them work for themselves. Third-party ones. And when you have the ones that work for themselves, they seem to be a bit more sympathetic to the client as opposed to like working at a big company where it's all about numbers and who can fill the position the fastest. Anyways, this is what my impression is. Maybe you can shed some light on us.
And that's the reality of it. that truly is. And what's really hard for a recruiter working in agency is that it's a little bit like you're saying, but it's really hard because we're kind of selling a dream and we cannot represent the company. We can represent the company, but to a certain extent.
Obviously.
So it's... For me, I was recruiting a little differently because for me, I was in the business to actually make a difference and to find the right job for the right person. But the reality is that it's a performance-based job.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Did at any point someone came to see you say, look, you're doing, I love your vision, but money has to come in?
Exactly. Well, I mean, I wasn't told directly, but that's it's a sales environment.
Yeah.
So it's very competitive amongst us and with other agencies as well. Yeah. So you want to look good, hence why, you don't always have proper candidate for the right job.
Yeah.
But for me, towards the end, I kind of hold off on doing that because I've understood that clients pay a lot of money. The bill is really big.
For what the work is.
Exactly. So I was asking myself, would my client want to pay this amount of money, would that be worth it for them? You know, is that candidate really is worth that amount of money? And that's the difference that, you know, that's why I was a little different in the industry, because I was working, yes, for my client, but for the candidate as well, and acting more as a matchmaker than a money maker.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
That's a good sales pitch.
However, maybe that's why you're not doing it anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, like, because it might not be, realistic long term. And even those who have a great business model and a great vision about recruiting and really caring about the candidates, at some point, and to complete what you said, when it's their own business or they're alone or they are headhunters, bottom line is, if you're really in need of money, you're gonna find a way to make that money, even if it means that it's not going to be for the best interests of the candidate and the company.
And the client, yeah.
So you get in the conflict of interest at some point, right? Unless you're such a major company and you have the freedom to work the way you want to work and create a great reputation. But in reality, it's really about selling. It's not branding.
No. Speaking of large companies, I'm actually kind of curious, did you prefer sourcing for larger companies or smaller companies?
With smaller companies, you have a little bit more flexibility in terms of, you know, it's startups mostly, or smaller companies that, you know, they could grow, but they decide to stay a little bit smaller. You have a little bit more flexibility because their procedures are not, you know, they're not looking for a mold. They're more looking for someone that's hiring for a fit, for a culture fit, more than the technical skills. You know, you can learn the technical skills, but you can't learn to learn a company's culture, right? So that was great because they were a little bit more responsive as well. And larger company, I mean, it's bureaucracy, right? So you have to go through the corporate ladder in order to get somewhere. And when the negotiation starts, it takes forever. And that kind of, so it's already a long process for the candidate as well, because, you know, you have to meet with the recruiter. Not a lot of recruiters do that, but I think it's really important to meet the person and have them face to face. And after that, you know, you present your candidate to all of your clients, and then after that they may take a week to get back to you, and that's going to take them another week in order to have a phone conversation with them, a week. So the process is really, really long. In smarter company though, they were a little bit more reactive because they need someone right now. So I think it was in a certain way it's better to work. I enjoyed more my the smaller clients that I had because they were more reactive. But then at the same time, if you look, but I wasn't in it for the paycheck, so that's why it was a little different for me. But, you know, with bigger company means larger salaries and means a bigger paycheck at the end.
Right.
So with standing companies now, my next question is actual clients. So for me, my experience, when a candidate would come in and they were for whatever reason they were not a fit, I'd never see them again. Like that was it. And like, especially like if it was a bad interview, like good, like bye, like I'm never going to see you again. Good luck. For you though, you would have to go and you're still working with that client. So the people that I'm happy that I never have to see again, you might have to continue to deal with. Did you ever get in a situation where you had to like fire a client?
It has happened because the great thing about recruitment is, like, let's say that a client is going to have a lot of need right now. So there you can place a lot of people there. So you kind of have intel in the company where the HR manager is telling you something, but our employees are telling us different things. So, I mean, in the past we had to make decisions that, okay, we're not, it's in the future, in the long run, it's going to be impossible to place there in the future. So you kind of have to decide, who's actually worth it in a way, because again, it's a money-making industry. So you can't spend too much time with a client that's not going to give you anything in return.
That's a great segue. A few years, I think it was back in 2007 or 8, and there was a firm I was trying to work with, a large firm, and so they sent me a few candidates that they were not that good for the time and the needs that we had. And at some point I go meet the guy, and he's like, he gets upset to me because it's like 4 guys I reject. And it's like, I'm gonna have to pull the plug because you're lowering my average, my conversion rate. And they basically pull the plug on me because I refuse to hire one of the four candidates. It's not necessarily my fault, right? The match wasn't right. The candidate wasn't right. Don't be upset to me. But that's like you said. That's what you said. It's things have to move on, and if it doesn't work out, and you move to the next line that probably gonna want those candidates. It's a very strange business to me.
And the thing is because it is a fast-paced industry, a lot of recruiters out there were not going to be taking the time to actually understand what is the job description. They're going to be like, okay, so here I have a new job to fill. We're going to read the big headlines, and then we're going to start headhunting. So you go on LinkedIn and you reach out to all these people without really understanding what the job description is. And you will see, on my LinkedIn feed, I'm going to have a lot of devs that are like, well, this recruiter, let's say I'm an IT PM. This recruiter has contacted me for like a project coordinator that takes from 2 to 3 years of experience, but he's an IT PM with 25 years of experience. So, even that, it seems to be such a, it seems to be clear. Junior, senior, but some recruiters will not even take the time to actually take in those details in order to reach out to the right person. And that comes to another issue where the market is really, really saturated at the moment, where devs are, and everyone that works in the IT industry are over getting reached out by recruiters that do not take time to reach out to their profile, and makes it so hard when you want to do some internal recruitment that people, like devs, aren't even looking at their emails anymore.
Yeah.
Now, that actually, I have some questions I'd like to ask you about your sourcing methods, especially specifically for developers. Do you have developers coming to you? Like, do they ever come like through email, like to your office or anything like that, and say, "Oh, I want to find a job. Find me a job."
Yes, it usually works with reference, and that's the thing where it's really important because being a recruiter, it's all about reputation, right? So if you kind of do it properly, that you take the time to meet with the candidate, and that person is not necessarily good, but that person may be working with top devs in his company. And if you do your follow-ups properly with that person, they will refer you to another person. So that was the way referencing was really, really big for me, because I was doing my job right. And obviously, the longer you are in the business, this is how your network grows. We also had, like a lot of leads being generated by, ads that we were putting on our website, or on like idjobs.com and LinkedIn, and people were reaching out to whoever recruiter was working in the agency to say, "Hey, I need a job. Can you help me out?"
What value do you believe that, or think that recruiters are bringing that someone like Steve is not bringing to candidates?
It's
not against him, right? But he's in this position, right? And there's companies working only with recruiters, and there's companies not wanting to work with recruiters. What value do you think they bring on the table?
The only value I believe that they do bring in is that they do save a lot of time. because that's not. But at the same time, that brings another issue, which what I was saying at the beginning is that they cannot represent the company as well as Steve does, for example.
Exactly.
And the thing is, it saves you a lot of time, but it comes at a cost, at a really, really high cost.
Yeah.
And so that's why I mean, external recruiters, headhunting at, the basic of it is that if that you're looking for that person that is super, super niche, and there's about 5 people on the market in Montreal that does it, this is when it comes really handy to have a headhunter.
Absolutely.
Because those people are already in jobs, and the reality is the people that most of the time they're really, really, really good people are already really kind of like happy with what they're doing. So I think if you're looking for someone really niche, headhunting with working with recruiters.
Executive search, you have to. I've tried to hire CFOs before, and it took me about a month to get one person interested, and that's just because I didn't really have too many people in my network, and it was impossible without external help.
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side, though, the funny part is, in my previous position, I was hiring for retail and trying to hire in all these small town USA places. There's no service out there that wants to bother with smaller, high volume, low wage jobs. So that's something I just had to suck up and do myself.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard to find these candidates. The problem was finding somewhat quality ones all remotely. And I would be, every day, there's a recruiter coming at me asking me if I wanted these management retail job positions. I'm like, no, look at my website. It's all just retail sales. I'm like, can you help me with this? And there's no one that could help me with that. However, when we're looking, like you said, at these higher level positions and things like that, then there's a ton of people that are willing to help you even if you don't have that need. So
yeah.
The other thing I wanted to kind of bring up is the kind of us versus them mentality, whereas the internal recruiter thinks that they're the best, they don't need other people's help, they're constantly being offered it, and they're like nonstop emails, phone calls, just, I have candidates for you, this and that. And what I want to know from yourself, from you, Vee, is that have you had to work with internal recruiters that just wanted nothing to do with you?
Oh yeah, every day. And it's so funny because it has happened to me that this person has built up this really great IT team internally, but didn't believe in agency. But their requirements and their testing processes in order to get an offer from that job was so hard that they didn't have a choice to work with recruiter. But she despised us, as a team. But she was really accessible and everything. But it has happened in other instances as well that they're too busy and they think that they can do it themselves. But in reality, it has happened. It was an everyday struggle for us, or where the client just stopped talking to us, and we're like, "But we sent you 15 people. Can we just get a response?" Or if you're not there's a lot of lack of communication in this industry, and this is where you kind of just in a bubble.
Well, I think it's because you get inundated so much every day by different recruiters, you kind of lose the motivation to give common courtesy.
Yeah.
Especially sometimes when they can get a little aggressive, they're calling you on your personal office line, and you're just like, where did you get this number?
Well, it happens to us many times that people would call, the recruiters would call the company and ask for specific names.
Oh yeah, when they're asking for actual candidates, that's even crazier.
May I speak with Sebastian? I'm throwing a name. Who's asking?
Oh, don't worry about it.
You're a recruiter, right? Yes, and okay, you need balls. It's not being it to me. It's not having a great work ethic. Doesn't compute to me.
I had one recruiter in my previous position. call me and say like, look, I can just tell me your mandate. I can do it. So I said, look, we're opening up a store in Calgary in 2 weeks. I need find me store manager candidates in 48 hours. So I gave them that challenge. They didn't get back to me. And the funny part was, it was basically an impossible scenario for them. But just to kind of like, I gave them a little bit of time of my day, and I decided just to kind of play around with them a little bit. And the funny part is, about 3 months later, I'm in an interview, and this girl, she's just like, and it's for my team as well. And this girl was just, do you remember me? I'm like, no. She's like, 3 months ago, you asked me to find store managers for you.
Holy shit.
I ended up hiring her. She was great. She's doing really well now. And but it just goes to show that everyone that you talk to, regardless of the position, you should always give at least some sort of courtesy to, because you never know when you're going to run into them again and in what capacity.
The good thing about internal recruiting is that you're aware of the culture, you're aware of what you're really looking for, and for a recruiter to really understand that needs to come a few times. Needs to have a few conversations with you, and most of them don't spend that type of time with their clients. A few years ago, someone really sold me on that and said, look, I'm not only placing people, I look at their interest. Are they good matches? So okay, come for a meeting. So we have a great conversation, and it's all about the interest of the client, of the candidates and the clients. I'm like, holy shit, we have a great chemistry here. And so we tried, and the first few candidates were right, and then slowly it started to be like normal and not right fit candidates, and at that point you just killed it. It's over. Game over. Because you've set the expectation at the beginning that you would focus on the client's best interests and the candidate's best interests. And along the way, you've changed that mindset. Maybe because it's too hard. Maybe because you cannot deliver. But at that point, it's game over. It is. And that's when the relationship stops. And
the reality is, I had one of a dev that actually challenged me on that, and when he asked me the question, I was like, I didn't find anything to answer him. But the reality is that recruiters that works in agencies will stay there for, like, it's really rare if someone stays there for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. People will change quite often. So maybe you've lost, that little bit of what they sold you at the beginning, because there was a lot of changes within that recruiting team. That too. So, and that's a reality of the industry as well. But I totally do agree with you. They sell you the dream over what
it's selling.
Really is.
It's selling.
Speaking of the reality of the industry, I've always been curious about this. It's so easy for devs to get positions here in Montreal. Like, they just need to, they can show up to an office and just be like, hey, I'm interested, and maybe get a job on the spot. Yeah. Like, that's how easy it is for them. So going through a recruiter, to me, sometimes I'm just kind of like, I ask myself, why? Now, where I'm going with this is actually, a lot of times, like, companies will have a recruiter and they'll introduce, and then for whatever reason, maybe they're just not ready to hire that week. And then the next week they are ready to hire, and they might see that candidate in their pool from months ago or something like that, and maybe they forgot they were introduced by the recruiter. Do you ever see your clients actually jump on board with the company that you might have introduced earlier outside of the...
It hasn't happened.
So, like, kind of going around your back type of thing?
Actually...
Or have you heard stories of it?
I think I've heard story of it, but let's say a reality of it. I mean, it's not exactly what you're asking for, but sometimes we will be sending candidates to our clients, and they're gonna say, no, we don't need great candidate, but we don't need it right now. But then 6 months later on LinkedIn, you're gonna have that alert. Hey, this person has started to work for that company, So it has happened a few times actually when I was working at my old agency, and and it's just you reach out to the client. Oh yeah, no, but in the contract it's within 3 months. They're no ones after 3 months on the contract. So it has happened a few times, which is quite unfortunate as well. But I mean, when you think about it, if you can save 15, 20 grand.
But honestly, it's good. It's true for both sides. Like what you just described, the client hiring someone after 6 months, whereas there was 3 months prescription. On the other hand, it happened to us many times that we get referred someone, and we look and we know that person, and so we tell the recruiter, look, we know that person. We spoke with him or her, and he's like, or she's like, yeah, but were you in active communication with him, with her or his or him? And you're like, well, not really. Like I spoke, yeah, but see, you would not know that this person's interested now if I would not have brought it up. So it's true in both sides to me. Like it's not just a one-way street, and if it's good for one, it's good for the other. So I kind of agree with that, but in both sides. And so if a client happened to talk with someone that he met a few months ago and the delay has been passed, why not? Why not? And it's true on the other end, because we speak and we talk with so many people, right? Yeah. So when a recruiter today come up with a name, very likely we know that person. But how long was the last conversation we had with that person?
Well, yeah, it happened to me actually one time where I think it was like 3 months and 1 day or something, and they kind of just, it was ridiculous. But that company was like, okay, you know what, fair enough. We're going to do like an arrangement. This is going to be the percentage that you guys are going to be getting, because we were already in the past in conversation with them like a year ago. So that was a deal that we came to, which was quite interesting. Yeah. But at the same time, in Montreal, it is such a small city, and everyone knows everyone as well. So that makes another...
For sure. Look, there's a situation I saw. You might have heard of something similar, but it shows as how sometimes people can be dishonest. And it happens once that a candidate got placed somewhere, and there's that 3 months, warranty on the guy or the girl. That passed. The same recruiting company paying that person 4, 5, 6 months later to place that person somewhere else. So they already got like an 18-20% commission on that person, and a few months later they try to grab that person again and put it somewhere else.
But seriously, I've heard that story before.
See?
So
that's fucked up. That's really crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. But
obviously, like, it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. It does happen once in a while. It's just crazy. It.
But then at the same time, recruitment, that's the good thing, like you have that 3 to 6 months warranty on someone. If that doesn't work out, you don't have to pay anything. We're going to find you another
Which is also
candidate.
something else I wanted to kind of, I'm happy you brought that up. So when you do have to find that the second candidate, because you're theoretically, you're not making any commissions off of this.
You're going to have to waste time on that.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, are you more motivated to try to find, like, the perfect fit or just a replacement? And for some reason, I feel like it's replacement.
It's more of a replacement because, in that industry, it's very fast-paced. However, what has happened to us is that we're joining as a team. Everyone has to, put a little bit of their time to find, and I mean, that's how it should be all the time,
The few good experiences I had with recruiting companies were because of the employee itself, the recruiter itself, the company itself. Most of the time, they don't have a good ethic. Most of the time, and the few times that it's been fine, it's been a good experience. It was because of the person, and eventually that person leaves, and then it all fucking fall apart, and the relationship is over. We won't work with them again. Over 10 years ago, we had hired someone. Person resigned within 3 months. Good. We have a 90 days warranty, right? It's been like 6 months, and I'm still waiting for the replacement. And that was very expensive, right? And to a point where we had to take legal action. As simple as it is. And we would get one resume once in a while, really like low level, the guy that they can't place anywhere. And
he could fit here.
Yeah, maybe. And just to justify them trying to replace the candidate, to a point where that's enough. And they had to refound.
But what I've witnessed and what I was being part of is like, okay, so we have a replacement.
Yeah.
Everyone drop everything that you're doing for like the next 3 days. Everyone is on that. So
that's good service.
It's great service. But then after that, if we don't find that little jewel, it kind of comes. We have new jobs to fill up, so it kind of goes to everyone's back of their minds, and it's not as a priority as it was.
You get a push, but then if that push doesn't work, then it's you're out there by yourself.
But that's why
cold calling
that's why this business model is broken. And that's why it should be, over the next payments over the next 3 months, 6 months, or one first day and one part at the 90th day, or like another recruiter we know is monthly. Mm-hmm. That's why it's broken, because that money you got on day one, you forget about it. Now, if you get a second payment on day 90, you have leverage. You have a reason to make it happen, right? And that is so broken. 18 or 20% of someone making, let's say, $100,000. It's a lot of fucking money for what the work is, really. And it's understandable that they want to do that because they have to pay for their big space, fancy, nice flooring, nice desk, eye tower, whatever. It's expensive, and that's what really people pay for. Some recruiters really do a great job, and they're fun to work with. And we have someone here still that came from a recruiting company, and that was because his friend was a manager in that company, and he said, I don't want to look, try to find me something. Like, I'm not on LinkedIn, I'm not going to send resume, whatever. And the girl who called me was super nice, and she would call me once in a while to get news, feedback, and I had a great connection. Eventually she moved on, something else in another province, and that was over. Because the person who took her place never created this type of connection, and that was over.
And recruitment, that's what it is, common courtesy, but it's also building relationships, and that's the difference. You just said it, like, it's not. There are more sharks than there are good people on there doing recruitment. But if you do find a good recruiter, trust that person. 100%. Because they can really take you to the next level for a client, but for a candidate as well.
Now, with that said, I understand that a candidate that's a bit shy and don't want to go through that process, and kind of like the convenience of working with the recruiter, trying to find opportunities and having conversation, that is cool. I understand that. There's a need for that. Not everyone is. Yeah,
they get all their interviews scheduled for them, everything like that.
And I understand on the other side that companies like us, sometimes they have bigger needs, or they don't want to spend the time, or there's a need for that. But anything in between is a mess. Is literally a mess. And so there's value for both. Like candidates and companies, the clients. But anything in between is a real problem. And a lot of large companies, they don't mind. Like they have so much money to spend. No matter, it's fine if they hire 20 guys at 20%. They have the money. They don't care, right? It's fine for them. But does that really bring value to the table in the end? Like, and to me, if a recruiting company would start tomorrow and really, really put clients' interests first and candidates' interests first, and not even, put the dollar last in the priority, they would become very successful.
Well, it's like that with any industry. It's just unfortunate. Like,
it would take time.
Whether it's car dealerships or
it would take time. It would take time.
The issue, though, it's the money that's always the driver in most cases. So it really takes passionate people, and that's kind of why the internal recruitment. If you get a good internal recruiter who's really passionate about their job, you can't beat that. There's no way. There's not really much need for third party. I think a lot of times when companies go to third party, their issues are more internal than this one position they're trying to fill. Well, from my experience anyways, and so for myself, when I have candidates that I see just aren't a fit for the job, I have no problem kind of telling them, like, look, like, maybe you should be, like, for example, Vee's position, I had some people who I could see were passionate about things like fashion, for example, and I have some connections in the fashion industry, so I had no problem sending them to some of the HR teams in other companies, because I said, look, like, this is what you're passionate about. Why are you applying for IT? Chances of running into someone like me, though, is very rare. The other thing, too, is you have to watch out for liability issues when you're giving candidates advice. So in most cases, when they ask for feedback, when I tell them thanks but no thanks, I can't give them that feedback. Whereas with a third-party recruiter, they can actually kind of give them feedback, coach them a little bit more, and kind of really help organize and make their life a little bit more simple. But what they're giving up is they're leaving money on the table. Because if we get someone from a recruiter that's asking for, let's say, $50,000. If we didn't have to pay the recruiter's fee, we could pay this person $60,000 or $55,000. Oh no, 60. Sorry. So it's a lot of give and take, and like I mentioned, kind of especially for developers, that's what I kind of find weird. It's so easy for them here.
I like what you're saying, because what candidates don't realize is that they also pay for the commission. They don't know this, they don't know that, but they will end up paying at some point. If someone is looking, let's say, for $75,000, and there's going to be a $18,000 commission on top of him or her, very likely he's going to start at 65 or 70. He's paying for that. That's the reality. You will never know. You will never know, which never happens, though, in internal recruiting, because you don't have that overhead. So it's not all about the companies paying. The companies share the costs also.
Well, listen, I even told everyone, I told most of the guys here, I'm like, if you guys are thinking about changing, it's okay, let me know. I have no problem helping you out. Just don't hire a recruiter because you guys are going to be leaving money on the table. And to tell you the truth, I'd rather help any of the guys working here right now if they're looking to take a next step. I'd rather help them out and get them more money in their pocket than have them kind of go behind our backs and work with the recruiter.
But that's the reality as well of, and because it's been a few weeks now, and I would be so stressed to be sitting on your chair and wearing your shoes, because, as I said, there is so much competition out there, and we have so many pros working for us, right? And we want to hire pros as well, and everyone that works here fits in our culture. And I'm like, but what if someone's leaving? Because they get poked so often. I remember devs were telling me, and that's how I was starting my introductory message. Hey, I know I'm probably the 300th recruiter contacting you this week, but I think I'm different. And that's true, because I was different. But, devs were showing me their emails, and wow, that's like 25 different recruiters and 8 contacting you for the same job. Do you understand why they kind of like...
Or adding a connection without visiting the profile type of thing?
Yes.
It's full of that. But newsflash for people, it's all about the value. What value are you bringing to your candidates? What value are you bringing to your clients? And if people are not moving out of a business, it's because they feel that they're getting more value than what they are being paid for. And that's it. So
I was more working quality over quantity. Because they're saying out there that it's a numbers game, and it kind of is.
Yeah.
But to a certain extent. I did prefer sending less people, but sending more quality to my clients.
Yeah.
And someone that was looking for DevOps jobs wasn't like a sysadmin. I wasn't presenting them for a sysadmin job unless that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know, like I needed to, and with the little as I knew about the company, because that's what we were saying, you know, it's not all the account director or the recruiters that gets to go to visit the client, but with the little that I know, trying to find the match. And I think people that wants to be successful and stay true to themselves, that acting more as matchmakers than, you know, money makers.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's what
money is one of the last variable that really matters in that fit.
Yeah.
In any fit. It's just one it's just one thing above so many things else.
Yeah.
You know, you said that you it's a few weeks and you'd be so nervous to be in his shoes. In the end, it's all about, look, if someone is ready to move on, that's because he feels or she feels that the value is not good enough. And if people are so insecure about losing their staff, that's because they know for a fact in their bottom gut that they are not bringing enough value.
Sure.
Everything is about value. Everything in life is about value. A relationship is about value.
Like, obviously, there's like super valuable candidates, super valuable companies that are just easy to fill. Or what about the horrible ones? Like, just like there must be some companies that you guys red flagged, also candidates as well, that you're like, oh no, not this guy again.
Look, okay. Oh, I have a couple of good ones. Okay, so I remember when I first got in the business, because that's how I am in life. I treat a janitor or a CEO the same way. You know, I put everyone on the same line. Everyone should be treated with respect, right? So a great and bad thing about me, no, a great thing about me is that I see positive in everyone. You know, and you know, people will come sit in my office and we were chatting and, you know, oh, he's a great person. I'm sure it would bring value, but that's not real. My client is not ready to pay $20,000 to have someone that doesn't tick all the boxes. Those people were, you know, usually desperate. That's the thing, to find a new job. And a dev, and that was a little desperate. I remember, you know, I met him. I sent him a few places. For 2 years, he was working actively with recruiters, and I remember sending him to a new client of ours, and he said, I have seen more this CV that I have seen the face of my son in the past 2 weeks. Like, this guy was just so desperate, right? So, I mean, and the thing is why he had many interviews, but the thing is why he wasn't hired is because he was desperate. And, you know, the reality that we live in as well is that Montreal is very multicultural, and this business is extremely, that we believe it or not, but it's extremely racist. So that's another difficulty that didn't bring to the job that I was doing. And I think that it's not because that you're not from Canada, the States, or Europe that you have no value to bring into a company. 100%. So that's another huge difficulty that I had to deal with.
Oh yeah.
And so unfortunate.
Just, but like, even for myself, I get a lot of applications from certain ethnicities or countries, and I have some friends that are from those countries that they fit in perfectly everywhere else, and I tell them, like, look, just Americanize your name a little bit and it'll be easier for you. It's not necessarily that companies are being racist or things like that, it's just that they get inundated by these type of resumes, and a lot of times they're not even in Canada. So it really makes the screening process a little bit more difficult not to have any bias, just because you're just inundated by it.
Well, we had someone about 4 years ago, and he had an Arabic name, and he basically changed it. I mean, he kept his main name, first name, but had it a pre-name before to make it more Quebecers type of name.
Yep, like just add Michelle before it, or
because he was, but the guy is more Quebecers than most of the Quebecers I know.
Yeah, well, that's the funny part.
Yeah, no, I agree. But the thing, please go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no,
but I mean, the reality that I was facing, especially, I think this is where hiring internally kind of changed that a little bit. But working with an agency, I present someone with a Quebecer name and someone with that has a different ethnicity. The person with a Quebecer name will have the job, even though this job, it's part of the description, you need to be bilingual, and that Quebecer doesn't speak English, will still
No, for sure. Like if you have a resume with Luc Tremblay and you have another one that the name you have a hard time pronouncing, 9 times on 10, this resume is going to be put aside, although it might be better candidate than this one.
Exactly.
And you know what? Most immigrants are better workers than local people.
I agree.
Strong work ethic, but
but they have. I mean, they have. Look where they come from. They don't want to fuck up, right? So they have this leverage of making shit happen here. That's why you see, a lot of immigrants in higher study, like a master degree and doctorate, and because they work hard, much harder than we do as local people. That's a total reality.
But as I was saying, I strongly think that hiring internally can bring a diversity within a company, and it's less of an issue than working in agency. I remember that was one of my biggest issues.
With the agency, it's very easy to just be like, look, even though it's illegal, it's very easy just to say, I want this certain age, certain sex, certain ethnicity, and none of these ethnicities because I got burned by them in the past or something like that. It's very short-sighted, and once again, this could happen internal as well. It's just a bit easier internally for an internal recruiter to kind of go against the person they're working with, and kind of try to show them like, okay, look, like this person is a great person, even though you might have been burned by someone's kind of similar to them in the past. Like, this person's different, let's give them a chance. Whereas external recruiter, if you tell them, no, I don't want this or this, that's it, doors closed.
But the reality is, let's say that you'll send a resume, they're not gonna say, oh no, because of this and that. They're just not gonna answer you. But they're gonna answer about the CV of Pierre-Alex Chouinard, So anyway.
Which a resume don't mean much anymore.
No. Well, it's all about meeting the people.
That's it.
Definitely. So I think, like, to succeed as a recruiter, as I said, it's, common courtesy, relationships, and it could bring value to your business, but I strongly believe that internal recruitment it's a little bit more magical, and you kind of feel like, for a dev, putting myself in the dev shoes and getting reached out by someone internally, I would be more inclined to answer to that person than the recruiter that I know.
But you have this background, you have this experience of working in a recruiting agency.
Yeah.
And most people, and we're talking about dev right now, but it's good for everyone. When they get poked by a recruiter, it's give a good sense of significance. I'm interesting for someone, so it's kind of cool. So I understand your point of view. It's not true for everyone because you have a different perspective as what a dev or a candidate would have. Yeah.
Well, also I think it depends on the size of the company as well. A lot of times, because if you try to approach smaller companies, they're usually pretty receptive. Whereas larger companies, there's just a giant wall trying to get any type of response. So that's sometimes I think that might be a situation where a candidate might want to get an external recruiter when they're trying to get into bigger companies, especially if the bigger company already has a mandate with that recruitment company. It's a much easier way in than just throwing your CV at where there's hundreds of thousands of CVs being taken in each day. Whereas in smaller companies, like even like on the ads that you put out to help promote my ads, I replied, "Hey, just reach out to me directly. Like DM me on LinkedIn. Like I have no problem talking with you."
Yeah, that's it.
Like you will never see that at a big company.
No, 100% not. 100% not. Yeah. Cool.
Good.
What would be let's say you as internal, as external, and as something else, would be that one thing you would say, or that one advice you would say to candidates looking for a new opportunity, whether it's with recruiters or for internal recruiters? So
for me, just like I mentioned before, like just reach out to the person directly on LinkedIn. I have no issue talking with people, especially people applying. I actually prefer people who stand out. Even coming to the office with a walk-in resume, it shows that they're taking the initiative. They want to get the position. They like your company, and they're taking the time to invest to do the proper research. It's that simple. And that goes for like almost any company.
And external as well for candidates is don't give up. Don't give up and show up. And that's one other reality is that we had so many candidates and let's say like they have an offer, they sign the offer, but they don't turn up on their first day, or they were supposed to be there 30 minutes ago and they just text the recruiter, "Hi, I'm not interested anymore." Just, take care of your reputation and just show up and be kind and stay, and the thing is with recruitment as well, sometimes you get pushed to do something you don't want to necessarily do. The candidate is getting pushed by the recruiter. I strongly believe that if a company really wants you to be part of their team, they will not pressure you to sign an offer within 24 hours. So show up, invest yourself, and take the time to think, because it's a big decision.
I was going there. I was going to say that's one of the, look, you spend the third of your time in the company, right? So it's a big decision, and people gonna spend more time picking a mattress for sleep than picking a job, and they spend both the same time, and one is unconscious. See how fucked up is that? And in the end, it's about what you want. It's about you. Before it was really interview, job. I need a job. Now it's a business meeting. I don't want even to call it an interview anymore here, because it's really a meeting. It's a conversation that you guys have. And a company that's willing to hire, whether it's with pressure or not, someone, although that person feels that the fit is not right, there's a red flag right there. They probably don't care that much about you, and it should all be about you, the candidate. It should all be about you.
Exactly.
It's not about the company, because if it's about you and everything fits, and you come and you work in the company, that's also going to be about the company after. But at first, it's about the candidate, and does that fits with your goals? Does that fits with your vision, your values, what you're looking for? Some people really value money. Some other people value security, and some people value just having fun. And recruiters, most of the time, they don't take the time to understand exactly what Joe really value. What is the first value of Joe?
It's not
and
just
Jane,
skills, knowledge, and salary.
That's it. It's human being. It's DNA. It's difference. And then having a couple days to think about it, if you cannot have that, if the company or the recruiter is giving you a hard time because you're gonna spend 2-3 days thinking about it, I feel super sad. Like there's a bunch of guys I follow on LinkedIn that worked here 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, who ended up leaving, and they're already at their 3rd, 4th job. They don't stay there for more than 3 to 6 months, 9 months when they're lucky. And then they switch again, and they switch again.
Because the salary changes. The salary goes up usually. And that's what we've noticed as well with them. And it's okay, you know, but...
Oh, yeah. Good for them if the rest comes with it.
Exactly. You know, maybe it's not a right fit. But that's, just, again, you know, I support in exactly what you've just said. Because some people will, you know, crave a salary, but some people will crave a challenge as well. You know, and some people will just change because there was no something that was sold to them wasn't exactly what they signed up for. You know, like it's not the reality is different.
That happens for sure.
So, but it's kind of another reality of the industry. But I think if the challenge is there, and for me personally, and I think in 2019, I'm not only speaking for myself, but I'm speaking for a lot of people out there. People don't only look for the paycheck anymore. They really crave a good and safe and a good challenge and a culture fit. And as you said, we spend more time at home than we do spend with our loved ones. So it's really important to think about this. And if with an offer, there's something that doesn't sit right, follow your gut. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
Yes, the recruiter is going to be devastated. Yes, the HR manager will be quite disappointed, but it wasn't meant to be. You have to think of yourself before making a big career move like that.
That's exactly it. And even when candidates here decide that it's not the right fit for whatever reason, I always still try to leave on a positive note.
Yeah.
I tell them good luck. I wish them the best of luck. I add them on LinkedIn. Because who knows? Who knows down the road if I'm ever going to cross paths with them again. Maybe today wasn't the right timing, but 1, 2, 3 years from now, you never know.
And a lot of them are super shy to call you back.
Yeah, well, they're always surprised at my reaction when they rescind an offer or decline an offer. They're always really surprised that I'm actually happy for them, because I think telling me this is the right move for them, and that's what I'm in it for. I want them, at the end of the day, I just want them happy. So either working with us or not working with us.
Yeah.
It's that happened to me before, when I said that I was working in the business to make a change for the candidate's life. And then let's say that I had an offer on the table and another agency with the same candidate had another offer, and I always developed this relationship with all my candidates, and I'm like, just talk to me, what's in it for you, but a lot of strategies on there is just to say, at the beginning you told me that this is what you wanted. People change. And it happened to me a few times that the person decided to go with the other company. And it's okay. I couldn't say that it was okay because it didn't bring the money in. But at the same time, I'm not going to go work for that guy or this woman. If she thinks or he thinks that the other offer is better for their personal life, well, go for it. But so I had to change my speech. But that's another story. But
So, understandable. Cool. Awesome.